The road wound upward in broken ribbons, gravel crunching beneath the tires of Marcus Hale's car. The headlights cut weakly through the mist, catching glimpses of skeletal trees whose branches clawed at the air like blackened fingers. Marcus had not been back to Hollow Ridge in 20 years. He had sworn, when he was just a teenager, that he would never return. Yet here he was, drawn back by a letter sealed in wax and written in a spidery hand. Mr. Hale, the estate of your late uncle requires your immediate attention. You are the last of kin. The house and everything within now belongs to you. He hadn't even known his uncle was alive. His parents never spoke of him, except for half-whispered fragments when they thought Marcus wasn't listening. Something about the incident and the ridge. When the car crested the hill, Marcus saw it. The house, it squatted at the top of Hollow Ridge like a waiting predator, 3 stories of crumbling stone, with windows like blind eyes, and a roof sagging beneath decades of storms. A thin line of smoke trailed from a chimney that shouldn't have been working. The sight made Marcus shiver. The front gates groaned when he pushed them open, the metal cold and flaking in his hands. As he walked up the overgrown path, he thought he heard whispering in the trees. But whenever he turned, there was nothing, just fog and the creak of branches. Inside, the air was damp and sour, carrying the faint scent of rot. His flashlight beam danced across cobwebs, dust, and faded wallpaper patterned with roses that had long since bled into brown stains. "Hello," Marcus called, though he knew no one should answer. But something did. From somewhere deep within the house came a hollow thump like a door closing in the dark. Marcus's stomach tightened. He almost turned back, but the thought of the inheritance kept him steady. This was just a house. Old beams, loose shutters, and rats in the walls. That was all. He found the study easily. It was the only room that seemed touched by recent life. The fireplace was warm, embers still glowing. Bookshelves lined the walls, stuffed with cracked leather volumes whose titles had long ago faded. A single portrait hung above the mantel, his uncle, though the face was gaunt, eyes too bright, and the smile stretched unnaturally wide. On the desk lay a journal bound in black leather. Marcus opened it, the pages brittle and yellowed. The handwriting slanted violently, like it had been scratched onto the paper in fevered haste. The house is not empty. It is never empty. The ridge keeps what it takes. The doors open for me at night, and the walls breathe. I hear them. I see her. The woman with the veil. She stands at the end of the hall, waiting. Marcus closed the book quickly, his pulse quickening. He set it back down, though the words burned in his mind. A sound broke the silence. A footstep, slow, heavy, from the hallway behind him. "Hello," he called again, louder this time. No answer. He turned the flashlight toward the sound. The beam stretched down the hall, illuminating peeling wallpaper and warped floorboards. Nothing moved. But then at the far end of the corridor he saw her. A woman, dressed in black, a long veil draped over her face. She stood perfectly still, hands folded, her shape half swallowed by shadow. Marcus froze, his breath caught in his throat. When he blinked, she was gone. He staggered back into the study, chest heaving. Just the house, he muttered to himself. Just tricks of the dark. But then came another sound, faint and wet. The sound of breathing, right behind him. Marcus spun, flashlight trembling in his hand. The beam fell across the study empty. No one was there. Yet the breathing continued, low and ragged, as though someone stood just inches from his ear. His heart thundered, "Who's there?" The only reply was the soft crackle of the fireplace. He forced himself toward the hallway again, scanning every shadow. Nothing moved. Nothing breathed at him. And yet, the floor groaned. A whisper slithered from the dark. It was too soft to understand, but it curled into his bones like ice water. He fled upstairs. Dust rose around his feet, the banister shaking beneath his grip. At the top, a long corridor stretched in both directions, doors lining either side. He remembered the journal's words, "The doors open for me at night." And indeed, as he stood frozen, the doors began to creak. One by one, each door slowly swung open, revealing only blackness inside. Marcus backed away. His flashlight flickered once, then died. The hallway plunged into darkness. Then, from the far end, came the steady tap of footsteps. Closer, closer. And beneath the veil of shadows, he saw her again, the woman. Her veil trailed along the floor like a funeral shroud. Her steps made no sound now, though he could feel the weight of them pressing against the silence. Marcus turned and bolted into the nearest open room. It was a bedroom, the air thick with mildew. He slammed the door shut, pressing his back against it. Seconds passed, then scratch, scratch, scratch. Nails dragged slowly down the outside of the door. Marcus clamped a hand over his mouth to keep from screaming. The scratching stopped, but the veil slid beneath the door. It moved like smoke, curling inward, spreading across the floor until the entire room shimmered with its presence. And then she was there, standing in the corner, her face still hidden behind that endless black veil. Marcus stumbled back from the corner, heart hammering so violently that it seemed to echo in the room. The woman didn't move. She stood with her head slightly tilted, her veil swaying as though stirred by a breeze that didn't exist. "Stay back," Marcus whispered. His voice cracked. "I don't want any part of this." Her hands, pale and skeletal, began to lift the veil. "No," Marcus breathed. His entire body screamed to look away, yet he couldn't. He was trapped in her presence, bound by an invisible thread of dread. The veil slipped upward, and for the briefest second Marcus thought he saw her face, Satian skin stretched, too tightly over bone. And then darkness. The lights in the house died completely. Marcus was swallowed in an absolute black that pressed against his eyes and smothered his breath. He fumbled desperately for the doorknob, yanked it open, and hurled himself into the hallway. His only thought was to escape. Get out, get back to the car. Leave this cursed place behind. But the house wasn't finished with him. The corridor no longer stretched the way it had before. The doors were gone. The walls pulsed faintly, as though alive, and the floorboards stretched into a staircase that twisted downward into an impossible spiral. Marcus froze at the top of the steps. He hadn't seen this staircase before. It burrowed deep into the earth, the steps slick with something dark that glistened like oil. A whisper floated upward. Marcus. The sound of his own name nearly made him collapse. His legs trembled, yet some force pulled him forward. One step, then another. The spiral closed around him, the walls damp and close, dripping with condensation that smelled faintly of blood. Down, always down. Finally, he emerged into a vast chamber beneath the house. The ceiling arched high above, lost in shadows. In the center of the room stood an altar of black stone. its surface carved with symbols that seemed to crawl and shift when he tried to look at them. And on the altar lay another book. This one was older than the journal upstairs. Its cover was bound in something that looked disturbingly like skin, the clasp a jagged piece of bone. Marcus approached despite every nerve in his body screaming at him to run. His hand trembled as he opened the cover. The first page bore a single line, "The house keeps its own." Then came pages filled with sketches, faces twisted in agony, bodies bound in chains of shadow, eyes gouged out and replaced with black voids. Some of the drawings looked eerily familiar. One sketch stopped him cold. It was him. His own face, rendered in precise strokes, his eyes wide with terror. Below it was scrawled, "The heir arrives. The ridge welcomes him." A sound scraped behind him. Marcus whirled. The woman in the veil had followed, but this time she was not alone. Figures stepped out of the darkness, men, women, even children. Their clothes were from different times. A soldier in a Mothaton uniform, a girl in a lace dress, a man in a tattered suit. Their eyes were hollow sockets, their mouths sewn shut with black thread. They formed a circle around him, silent and unmoving. The veiled woman drifted closer. Her voice rasped like dry leaves. "You have returned to us, Marcus Hale. The blood of this house binds you." "I don't belong here," he shouted. "This isn't my place." Her veil shifted, and the black tears streamed down her face again. "It is now. The ridge remembers. The ridge never lets go." The figures began to move, swaying as though to a soundless hymn. The air grew heavier, pressing against Marcus's chest, until he could barely breathe. Panic clawed at him. He bolted for the staircase, but it was gone. The walls of the chamber had sealed shut, leaving only stone. The circle tightened. Hands reached for him, cold and clammy, their stitches straining as muffled groans seeped through. Marcus backed against the altar, his hands brushing the cursed book. A single thought pulsed in his head. Burn it. He grabbed the book and hurled it into a brazier that burned at the far side of the chamber. The fire roared higher, the flames turning black. The air shook with a scream, not just one, but hundreds, all merging into a chorus of agony. The veiled woman shrieked, her face contorting, her form unraveling into shreds of shadow. The stitched figures convulsed and collapsed into heaps of ash. The chamber cracked, stones splitting, dust raining from above. The house was tearing itself apart. Marcus ran. He didn't know how, but a narrow passage had appeared where the wall had been. He sprinted through it, lungs burning, as the sounds of destruction roared behind him. Up, always up. He burst through the front doors of the house, just as the walls buckled inward. The roof collapsed, sending a cloud of ash and smoke spiraling into the night. When the dust settled, Hollow Ridge was silent. The house was gone. Nothing remained but a hollow crater and the mist curling above it. Marcus stumbled to his car, hands trembling as he shoved the keys into the ignition. The engine sputtered, then caught. He drove without looking back, down the winding road, away from the ridge. But as the mist thinned and the night grew quieter, he caught a glimpse in the rearview mirror. A figure in black sat in the back seat, veil draped gently over her face. Her voice whispered in his ear, "The ridge keeps what it takes."